All right.
All right.
Well,
Welcome everyone to this SR UK Star Club webinar, and apologies again for the late start and the abrupt setup. We've just changed over to Zoom from GoToWebinar, and we're having a few little teething problems. I'm sure we'll sort these out in future. And okay, so today we've got Julian Venables with us, and he's the topic or the title of his lecture is Enlightenment Through Your Rising Sign. And Julian is a faculty diploma holder and has been chair of the Brighton Astrology Group since 2012. In 2023, this year, he'll be publishing his first astrology book titled The Divine Order. Have I got that right, Julian?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
And this is a revolutionary and groundbreaking book, bridging together traditional astrology with modern psychology. This book introduces an amazing rediscovered perception for astrologers to enjoy, bringing opportunity for instant enlightenment whilst illuminating our divine link to the creation. You can find Julian's YouTube channel at Julian Venables Astrologer, and his website address is London.
Just www.londonastrologer.com.
Astrologer.com. Thank you, Julian. All right, without any more ado, over to you, Julian.
Thank you, Richard. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to my first ISAR Star Club lecture. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is something I've been working on or been developing a theory for about 4 or 5 years. And it came about in such a way that I felt I had sort of reached this unification point from working with various different things. I mean, astrology is my big thing. I've been an astrologer. My chart was first done in 1988. So it's now 2023. So that's almost, well, I didn't sort of actually buy an ephemeris till about 1993. So that'll be about 30 years. So I think that it's taken me a while to write an astrology book, but here I am, and here is this idea that I have, and I do hope it's well received. And so I'm just going to go through this PowerPoint with you. This first image that you're seeing is one of the images that originally inspired me. As you can see, it's like the pilgrim at the edge of the world. And he's sort of peeping through this sphere and seeing the mechanics of the universe behind the sphere. And to me, that meant an awful lot. I was so thoroughly inspired by that picture that to me, it always means kind of that set me on the path, as it were, to see what it was. I needed to see what astrology was, and it's gotten this far. So I'm calling this talk Enlightenment Through Your Rising Sign, because this is the thing that attaches us when we're born to this world. And I'm going to show you tonight an experiment by which you will understand in yourself, you can judge for it yourself, the experience you're going to get. And it tallies with understanding astrology, not only from a Jungian modern psychological viewpoint, but also from the ancient viewpoint. And when I realized that doing this experiment creates this perception, I realized I was onto something pretty amazing. I think I'm probably, just possibly, the first person doing this. So I guess this is the groundbreaking lecture. And I might be being very Leo. I have lots of Leo planets and a Leo ascendant. So it could be, I could be saying, I'm the first person and you saw it here first. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you my next slide on this lecture, which is my book. So I am literally at the threshold of publishing this. It's going to be self-published. It's finished, it's ready. It's been fully proofed, edited and laid out, and it's looking very nice. And it's going to be out next week on Amazon, in fact. And or yeah, I think yeah, it is going to be on Amazon, but it's also going to be available. People can order it from my website or from me in person or whichever way you want. But here it is. It's called the Divine Order because I believe that what I'm about to show the world of astrology and the community, our global community of astrologers, all of whom I always feel we're all waiting for a good idea, something really new and something fresh to move us forwards. So I'm calling this Divine Order because I'm going to show tonight how to connect to the divine. It's not just a series of words, it's an actual experience. And it can be likened to getting a flash of enlightenment, because the word enlightenment is actually about understanding light and having more light, or to be in the light, enlightened and with meaning, light with meaning. And so the tagline to the front cover of my book there is rediscover the lost secrets of the planets to restore your place in the universe and release your creative genius. And you can see there that front image is a very quite a famous astrological image of the Aristotelian cosmology, and there'll be more on that as we progress. So the rediscovering of the lost secrets of the planets is why I've called this book The Divine Order, because I've taken I'm just dealing with some very core principles in this book, and that is the order of planets. Okay, and I'll get into that further down the line. When you rediscover this order of the planets, you can restore your place in the universe. And that is when I'll be showing you the experiment. And then you can release your creative genius, means you can use it as a form of astrological psychotherapy. So I'm introducing here what it could be a brand new form of psychotherapy with regards specially designed for astrologers to use, or astrologers to use with their clients. So basically, the Divine Order is an incredible flexible system of creative manifestation and intention setting, using astrology as the basis of transformation. So, you know, you get a lot of these New Age books. I mean, I could just reel a whole bunch of them off for you: The Artist's Way, The Secret, E equals MC squared, you know, all those big New Age sellers. And they talk about how to create your reality and manifest things, but none of them have ever done it with astrology, right? They just don't do it with the planets. And of course, they're missing a trick. I mean, missing a massive trick. They still sell loads of copies of these books, but they don't use astrology. And that's why people then end up saying, oh yeah, I bought that book, I did that book, oh yeah. Did it work? Well, I don't know, I don't know. So after being an astrologer for many years and reading several of those books to try and work it all out, I came up with this theory. So here we go. All right, here's my book. Anyway, on to the next slide. So a little bit about tonight's topics, okay? So just briefly, I probably might go off tangent a bit, but we'll see how it goes. Firstly, I'm going to talk to you about getting ready for some Pluto and Aquarius. Secondly, we're going to do the shift of perception, which is all you actually need out of this lecture tonight. That's your takeaway from this lecture. For attending, you will get the shift of perception. Then I'm going to show you the all-seeing eye experiment. And then we're going to look at maybe, depending on the time and how things are going, but I've just stated it there, and that's all you actually need to know. The difference between primary emotion, which is awareness, and secondary emotion, which is consciousness. Again, I'm saying this here for the first time. Other astrologers are bound to jump on tell me that they got this before me or whatever, but I'm just going to say now that by understanding primary emotion, we have that as the basis of pure awareness, and then secondary emotion is consciousness. That brings me to point 5, which of course is the rising sign. And in astrology, we call it the rising sign or the ascendant. But of course, in Buddhism, they have a thing called thoughts arising, as in thoughts are arising all the time. Even as I'm talking to you, I have a stream of thoughts flowing through my mind. But I'm not speaking them, but I'm aware of them. I know that they're flowing and they never end, just probably like you are experiencing in your mind right now too. If you look at other religions, we've got thoughts arising in Buddhism, and then in Christianity, of course, the big religion of the West, and they talk about Christ is risen. And so what's rising in Christ? Yeah, well, what's arising? Thoughts are arising. Quite interesting. Yeah? Ascending, ascension. Is he rising into divine nature? What was Christ doing? I mean, what was all that about? And I'm not particularly a Christian. I don't adhere to any particular religion. I've had an interest in all of them over the years. So as an astrologer, one does, just the way it goes. But basically, here is a theory that I have for you. So 3 images there. We've got the Aquarius symbol. We've got a halo around a Christ-like character with beams of light. And then we have this very symbol that a lot of people misinterpret. No one really knows what that is. It's engendered tons and tons of conspiracy theories and all sorts of things. But tonight, I think I'm actually going to be able to show you what it is. So that's going to be quite interesting. So move on to the next slide. So we're going to be getting ready for Pluto in Aquarius. We've got like 2-month countdown or so, about March the 23rd, I believe it is. So what might happen? What are we going to look for in the world of astrology? I've done there like a sort of Zen painting, and I'm not going to mention Zen. Because just was the simple sort of line paintings of the Aquarius symbol, because it kind of indicates the ways. It looked quite good. I thought it was a nice symbol to use. Pluto's going into Aquarius. What can we expect? Aquarius has often been associated as one of the signs that attracts astrologers. So when Pluto goes in to this sign, do you think we're going to have something quite big happen to our world of astrology? I like to think we probably are. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you just a couple of Aquarian type themes. As you can see here, we've got the water bearer's jar in the background there. So basically, the Aquarian nature is the water of emotion that flows through the rationality and thought process of air. That is, you can talk about your feelings. It's a kind of psychotherapeutic zodiac sign, actually, in its own way, because it's like talking the psyche, talking the mind, in a rational and thought process kind of way. So in a way, it's the world beyond the veil of the physical world, the cosmic energy that is actualized into specific patterns of thought. And one can say, with the energy or the Aquarius, one gains objectivity, perspective, and a reflective approach. So the air sign of Aquarius, because it's air, it links to breath and breathing, the breath of life, which is the prana in Indian yogi system, and in the ancient Greek mythology or Hellenistic astrology, it is the pneuma, And I do believe it's time. One of the things about Pluto and Aquarius will be the reintroduction of breath work with chart reading. I think this is a big thing and will be a very good area to develop. So I'm already got a half-written book on that one. So that you'll be seeing that hopefully not too long from now. And but pneuma is the life force or the life spirit. It's an actual like a form of a spiraling energy. It's a bit like we see it everywhere and in everything. So pneuma is in the movement of the wind. So when you're looking out to sea and you see, say, a windsurfer's sail or a yacht sail catch the wind, that'll be the movement of pneuma pushes that boat, windsurf along. It's the actual curling of the wave. So if you're a surfer on the water and you see that wave rising in the sea, that is a pneuma. That is a wave of motion. And it's a spiraling motion, just like that wind was, except you can't see the wind. So, except when it's a tornado. But it's in the sea, it's the wave. Yeah, so it's wave form. So pneuma is like a wave form. And there's a lot more to say about that, as I said, further down the line. So on the right-hand side of the slide there, you can see I've listed some of the more interesting Aquarian words. So when Pluto goes into Aquarius, what do you think we're going to get? Well, some things are going to be unconventional, innovative, unique, unusual, inventive, original, intellectual, maybe scientific, humanitarian, for the good of all, attuned to the universal will, which is why I've put again the divine order, because to tune to the universal will, and I'm linking back there to Hellenistic astrology and the ordering of the planets. Universal will is the ordering of the planets, therefore it's the divine order. And ultimately, it's a revolutionary, spirited potential. So all of these things can lead to maybe the idea that when Pluto goes into Aquarius, and not forgetting that Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted at 0 degrees Aquarius in December 2020. So they planted the seed for 20 years of Aquarianness, or an Aquarian sense of development or structuring within society. Pluto's going to enter Aquarius in March. It's only there till June, then it retrogrades and it comes back. It actually gets to the point where Jupiter and Saturn met in February 2024. So when it reaches the minute of 0 degrees that Jupiter and Saturn were at, which is February 2024, then I believe the change in perception will be ready. Everything can go from that point onwards. You know, we can lift off, as it were. So very exciting. And let me just carry on, because I believe, I don't know, you know, I've been watching the world of astrology, being part of it for a long time, and ish, you know, and I think now it's time to really try and show what I think is possibly the next step that could be linked to all of these keywords that I've just mentioned. So a couple of questions to answer before entering the rabbit hole. This is kind of fun, really, but you know, just to ask yourself a few things here is, do you really want to be enlightened? You know, well, you don't have to be, you know. Do you really want to go beyond your natal chart? Are you actually happy with the habitual patterns in your life? Would you like to use your planets and your astrology to take a further step towards liberation? Are you prepared to accept that there's something akin to like what we could call the elephant in the room with regards to current mainstream astrology's perception of the world? Are the different viewpoints of astrology, modern or traditional, a good thing, or is it time to consider and integrate a form of a union? That is to say, can we bring all our different theories together into one unification? Because that would actually strengthen the community massively. And I do believe we need to shore up those who would denigrate astrology, and those who pull it down, and those who create fun out of it. And we need to have some sort of unification. And if it combines Jungian modern psychotherapy and psychology with ancient astrology, then we're starting to look at possibly something that could be a stronger unification. Okay, so what started me off on this path was I came across a Robert Zoller quote. I never met Robert Zoller. I never met Robert Schmidt either, but I have met Robert Ham. But I never met Robert Zoller. But I did read this quote, and it did set me off on something quite amazing. A train of thought that has led to this point, to this day. See here how everything leads up to each day in one's life. You know, we can make references to the past all the time, but it's always moving us to the present moment. And when we're in that present moment, we can go, oh, look at what happened, and then look, you know, what's now. So this quote here from Robert Zoller: the complete study of astrology, therefore, consists of not merely digging up the writings of the ancients and assiduously studying them, but penetrating their inner meaning and rediscovering their perceptual mode. We must ultimately see the world as the ancients did if we are to understand their metaphysics. Okay, there's the quote, and it came from the book there, which is on the slide, so you can refer to that if you want. So let's have a think about this word perception. And to perceive as a verb is to become aware of or gain knowledge of. To become aware of something, awareness, or to gain knowledge of something. or to come to know by direct experience. Comes from the Latin percipere, to grasp with the mind and to comprehend. Now, my theory here is basically going to tell you now, I'm going to move this forward to this idea that in astrological history, there was a huge shift in perceptual mode that happened several centuries ago that changed everything. So, this is just this slide is basically to say how we recognize, how we need to recognize as astrologers, we need to how we need to perceive things different. Okay, because astrology was blasted to smithereens in the UK anyway, in England. You know, the history of it was blasted to smithereens in the 18th and 19th centuries. Okay, what had been the only way of understanding the world for thousands of years, you know, it was the way that the world was seen. Astrology was the, you know, the will of God, was everything. You know, the system that guided all religions, and that had been the only way of seeing the world. That started to go, or underwent a major shift once Copernicus put forward the heliocentric theory, and then Galileo created telescopes to observe all that. And then once Isaac Newton published Principia in 1689, astrology was rapidly denigrated as the new scientific materialism took over, which then dominated. So for almost 200 years in the UK, it was pretty much illegal to be an astrologer, and the whole sacred art was reduced to reference as fortune tellers, which was again a sort of beginning of the denigrated term of the idea of what divination was, or used to be. It then became fortune tellers. And this went on until until Helena Blavatsky in the Theosophy Society. She first published in 1877, and then a theosophist, Alan Leo, started publishing astrology from 1895 onwards. So it was Alan Leo who started to pull together and publish in you know, substantial amounts the idea of what of astrology. He pieced it back together from what he could. So he invented the word sun signs, because after 200 years, as astrology began to rebuild itself, as it was building, what it was doing was building its new foundations upon top of the scientific rational materialism, which was the very thing that had crushed it. Now, think about that for a minute. Okay, so the scientific rational materialism crushed the original divinatory astrology to the point that it hardly existed. Then one hero, Alan Leo, came along and he rebuilt it, but he built it on the structure that had crushed it. So it was natural that astrology took on the heliocentric perspective of the world. Okay, that was like it was a natural given. Yeah, that's why he invented sun signs. And that's how astrology then developed and grew from that idea of the sun being at the center. Now, I am absolutely not here to say that a science is wrong. Okay, this is not the point of this talk. I am here to tell you that to look at it slightly different. Okay, from your own perspective. Okay, the whole purpose of what I'm talking about tonight is to show you that from your perspective, from your center, how do you see the world? Okay, and that is key to everything in this talk, right? So I say here, a shift of perception is all you need. Could it be said, or would we generally agree, that we mostly practice astrology in the third person perspective and heliocentric? I think we probably do. All right. So astrology can become a word salad of interpretations, but are we really connecting to the source, to creation, to our true nature, to the divine nature, and therefore to the divine order? So I'm proposing in this talk that we have overlooked something that is so deeply spiritually unifying and satisfying, and that it is time to rediscover it and to love it. What I'm about to show you can be integrated, explored, enjoyed, and it transforms in a very positive way the future of astrology, making it a light-based understanding that can bring flashes of enlightenment. Just to remind you, this is how the ancients used to see the world. As you can see there, this was the geocentric perspective. The Earth was still and unmoving at the center of all things. And around it, in crystalline interlocking spheres, were the 7 visible planets of the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Now, why did the ancients used to see the world in this way? Why did they create everything like it was? Because they were seeing the world from their own centers. Every individual, every single person sees the world from their own center of being, their very, very center of being. They look out to the world around them. They are constantly going that way outwards to the world around them. And they don't, you know, to say that we're going around the sun has been teaching humanity for around 400 years that we're actually off kilter, because it's saying that we're not at our center. And look at the result of the world. We have ecological disaster, we have mismanagement of resources, we have, you know, destruction of nature, destruction of the planet, of the whole ecosystem that we live in. But we also have inequality, massive inequality amongst the human race, and loads of unfairness and loads of mismanagement of even just basic humanities. Okay, so why do you think that is? You know, well, my theory is that, you know, and I might be completely wrong. I really did. I might, you know, you might just say tonight, oh my God, what was that guy on about? What a nutcase, you know, but I might not be wrong. So I hope you just keep listening. You know? If you turn and look back at yourself, okay, so this is key, right? You go, what am I looking out of at this world? What am I looking out of? And this is part of the first experiment, is I want you to think about your attention, where you put your attention, okay? Tonight, what I'm showing you is the difference, defining the difference between awareness and consciousness, because these are 2 separate things, okay? They are completely unified. In fact, there is no dividing line in between them, but it is possible to define the difference. And when you see that difference, you can then see what the chart is, what your astrology chart is your map of consciousness, okay? It's your map of consciousness. That is that flow of thoughts that constantly go through your mind like a raging river, yeah? Never stops, right? And in fact, even the Rinpoches, the gurus, the enlightened ones will tell us it never stops. It won't stop. What you're actually meant to do with it is just observe it. And then you can get enlightened. All right, you just watch it. You step back from it. So going back to that idea of the Aquarian slide that I showed you, gaining perspective, objectivity, to step back. Yeah, there's my chart. Your chart's actually third person, right? Because you're looking out at it, you're going objectively. But what I'm going to be teaching you tonight, or showing you, hopefully for the first time, and hopefully I really hope you enjoy this, is I'm going to show you to look this way, okay? To point back and look at yourself, okay? And we're about to start that in a minute. So, just to sort of set things in motion a little bit, right? This is a picture of, you've probably all seen this one before. It's the Dendera Zodiac in Egypt. And I want you to keep in mind of what they're doing here. As you can see, they're kind of supporting a circular round, yeah, a bit like a sphere. They're all supporting a sphere, aren't they? But they're holding it up, yeah. They're holding it up like this, right? I want you to think about holding things up, right, like this, okay? So that goes back to 3000 BC, you know, and it's this idea of holding up that sphere. Okay, and I'll go back to that probably in a bit. Right. The next slide is the Aristotelian cosmology, and I think this is where, this is where I want you to start to imagine yourself being in the center of these crystalline spheres. Okay, they are moving outwards from you at your center all the time. Okay, so very basically, to go over this, you have the four elements at the center, and the four elements make up the corporeal body. Of course, they are the sort of balance of everything in our lives, aren't they? They're sort of, they do make up, you know, think of the periodic table of elements. Everything that exists in this earth, in this realm, is made up of elements. So here we have the four, you know, the basic classical four elements there. We've got a nice little bit of land with a little house and a few trees. That looks quite nice, like a little island. And on the island, there's a pond and a lake, and there's a little river flowing through it. And there's some sea all around it, which is, so there's your earth and your water. And of course, you know, these things go, earth and water, you know, they are things that go downward or receptive or inwards. And then you have the next layer outwards is what looks like sort of rolling clouds, or maybe, you know, the clouds, they're the air, isn't it? It's the air element going around and around there. And rarefied air, air turns then into fire. And of course, you know, fire needs air, and air feeds fire. And so it ascends upwards, and then we get the fiery flames that take us to that's the four elements there, a system that is contained within itself. And it's contained within itself because everything under the moon is changeable. Okay, so everything under the moon inside the sublunar sphere, we are within the sublunar sphere in this earthly realm. And we're not really designed to go beyond it in these bodies, in our four elemental form. We're not actually really designed to go past that. So we are basically in our under the sublunar sphere, which is changeable. Everything is shifting and changing and contingent. That is to say, it doesn't stay the same. So we are in the world of impermanence, things that don't change, the world of impermanence under the moon. And the moon, being the fastest moving with her phases, changes the phases throughout the course of 1 month, also indicating that she is changeable. But she is taking all the perfect celestial spheres which don't change, because in our realm of change, everything's changing in our earthly realm. But once you go past the moon, you then have the unchanging celestial spheres, and their rays are coming down through the moon. So everything comes through the moon. And of course, that's a great tip for when you're studying things like transits. You know, it's the moon triggers transits often. You know, you get something building up, and then the moon needs to trigger it. You know, like for example, right now we've got Mars stationing in Gemini. I mean, right now Mars is stationing in Gemini. It goes direct on the 12th, but we're going to feel it probably most likely tomorrow, because the moon has just got into Virgo tonight, and the moon will make a square to Mars tomorrow. So all that energy, all that Mars energy that's building up in its stationing degree is actually going to get released by the moon square tomorrow. So that'll be quite interesting, you know. So that's what I'm trying to say there about how the moon actually triggers transits and things to happen. Everything moves through the moon, and then the moon brings it to Earth, which of course is why women give birth and why lunar is so associated to procreation and to nature and the development of eggs and seeds and various things like that, is because it carries the force of life into this earthly realm. So it's about giving birth through things. Things come through the moon. Anyway, where we are is looking out from it, right? So we are in this center point. And in this Aristotelian cosmology, this is the place which we can find our pure awareness. Okay, and on the outer edge as well, in Latin here, it says the house in basic Latin translation, the house of God and all of the elect. So it's the Empyrean. The sky colium of the Empyrean is the house of God and all of the elect. So this is the area known as the unmoved mover. Okay, the unmoved mover, which Dante talked about in his Divine Comedy, and so it's paradise. Okay, so paradise is beyond, in the Aristotelian cosmology, it's beyond all the spheres, and of course, in the third book of Dante's Comedy, he goes into paradise and he ascends through these 7 heavens, plus those other 3 realms. So he goes through the firmament, then he goes to the crystalline sphere, then he goes through primum mobile, and then he enters the Empyrean. And that is the union with the creation, with the divine creation. I think, dare I say it, I think I might be able to show you this. I believe I found it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to show you, and it's an experiment. So here we go. All right, I'm going to show you how God is within, or the creation is exactly within you, and how the spheres move out into your consciousness, so that at the furthest sphere, beyond the furthest sphere, is creation again. So you have creation at your center. At the very center of being is creation. And then at the outer edge, past all the spheres, is creation. That is to say, we are a reflection of creation. Now, all these New Age books and all these people talk about this, and they say, oh, it's this and this and this. But they don't bring this in. They don't talk about what Dante was talking about in the Divine Comedy. They don't talk about what Shakespeare was doing, why he called his theatre the globe. Why did Shakespeare call his theatre the globe? Well, look at that image. It's a globe, right? And so, you know, everything moves out from the center of the stage. Everything moves out like the theatre of life. You know, all the world's a stage, yeah? And in our own lives, in every single individual, we are on our own stage. We are on our own, acting out our own little theatre performance for the world, okay? So this image is one of the things that I really found to be an amazing part of this journey. Okay, so I think I'm ready to show you something. All right, I hope this works well, and I really hope, from my humble place as just a little old Leo. Oh, sorry, you know. Anyway, whatever. I'm going to show you this now, and then we'll see where we go. Right? Okay. So the experiment is this. I want you with a pointing finger in the room that you are sitting in. I want you with your pointing finger to become aware, to become aware of where your attention goes. Okay. So, for example, I might say, of my pointing finger, I'm going to point to something in the room. Okay. And I want you to point to something and say, that is that. Right. So I'm going to say, I'm pointing to a telephone. Yeah, that's a telephone. It's a rectangular shape. I use it to give and receive calls. I'm going to point to sort of homeopathic remedies. Yeah, cell salts. There we go, pointing to those because it's a bottle that I'm familiar with. It has a label on it that has a meaning. So I'm pointing to that. Okay. And I hope you're doing this at the same time. You need to be doing this experiment as I show you how to do this. Okay. Then I want you to say, point at a piece of furniture or an object in the room. Oh, some books. I'm pointing to the books. I know they all have labels. They all have meanings. I'm pointing to a picture. I'm pointing to a light bulb. I'm pointing to the floor. And the floor's got a rug on it. I recognize the rug and the colors of the rug. Now I want you to take your pointing finger and I want to point at your foot. And this is all about where your attention goes. I'm teaching you and showing you how the consciousness flows. Okay. You have to do this in order to get your consciousness flowing, so you know how it flows, right? And you're using this because this is intention. The pointing finger is the intention. Okay, so you point at your foot. Oh, I haven't got my shoes on, but I've got socks on. See my socks. Then I want you to point at your knee. Oh, my knee was covered in trouser fabric. Yeah, that's okay, right? Then I want you to point at the middle of here, this area. Oh, that's my torso. I'm pointing at my torso. And then I want you to point at your own face. Okay. Point at your own face and ask yourself, what am I pointing at? What is it now that I'm pointing at? How do I describe it? I describe books, rugs, phones, bottles, book thing, socks, everything. I describe all the different things. But how do I describe the thing I'm now pointing at? What am I pointing at? Well, I'm pointing at, well, I don't have a mirror. I don't have a mirror, so I can't actually say to myself that I'm pointing at my face because I can't see my own face. I cannot actually see my own face. Can you? Can you see your own face right now? Okay, remember, this is what I'm showing you. This is the experiment to show you how to change your perception to get enlightenment through astrology, right? So you're looking now at your own, you're pointing at your face and you're thinking to yourself, how do I get the, how do I describe this? I don't know. Describe it as capacity, as a space, the space that I'm looking out of. Yeah, I'm actually pointing at the space that I'm looking out of. How do I describe that? Well, hang on a minute. How do I describe that? I can't see my own face, so I can't say I'm pointing at my face. But I can say that I'm pointing at the space I'm looking out of. But how do I describe that further? Well, what's there? What's in it? Well, the whole world's in it, right? The whole world's in this space that I'm pointing at. Here I am, a pointing finger, pointing at the space. And it's like the whole world's in it. The whole world is in this space, is it not? How about you? Are you doing this right now? Are you pointing at your space that you're looking out of? Is this not a vast, enormous, huge, infinite space? If I was to turn to one side and look out the window and look up to the sky, I can see stars and the moon and the planets up there, but that's in my space, right? It's in your space. So I'm pointing at my space and it's got the whole world in it. But I'm also doing something else. I'm actually looking outwards. So as well as looking in at the out, I'm looking out at the in. So I'm going in and out, two ways. I'm going like that. I'm actually going, I'm pointing in at my space that has this infinite amount of capacity because it's everything. But I'm also pointing back out because I'm looking out at everything. And there's in fact no dividing line. Where is the dividing line here? Yeah, well, there isn't one. Yeah, there is actually no dividing line, is there, right? Because if you're doing what I've been telling you, well, I'm hoping you're following me. I hope you're following me. I'm pointing in at this space and I'm pointing out at the space that I'm looking out of. And it's the one and the same. It is one and the same. It is all unified. Okay. So, but hang on a minute, all this thing, what if I was to close my eyes for a minute? Yeah. So I'm going to close my eyes and I actually want you to do the same as well. Okay. Because I'm seeing this massive space. It's like infinite. It's like vast, isn't it? It's vast, isn't it? Because it's all in me. Here, oh my God, it's all in me. Everything's in me, isn't it? I mean, everything is inside and it's outside because I'm in it as well as in it. I'm in and in, out and out, on both ways. So let's close my eyes. So will you close your eyes too? I hope you can do this too. Okay. So we're going to close our eyes. And what happened then? Well, where am I now? Well, hang on a minute. That space that I was just in, I think I'm still in it. Well, I am actually, but with my eyes closed, I'm still in the space. Yeah, that's it. I'm in the space. right? I'm in it. I'm still here. I'm in that space, but it hasn't got all the embellishments that it had before, all the decor. And just in this, wow, this wonderful kind of vastness of being. You know, everything's like. But when I hear things coming in through my ears, they land in this space. Things are just landing in there. There's this kind of room to move around, you know. But this is my being, right? This is my being. I'm being like this. I'm in my being. My eyes are closed. I'm in my being. I can hear the noises coming in from my own voice, but I can hear, if I hear the birds twittering outside or whatever noises in the kitchen or something, you know, noise coming in. But I'm in my being. But this being, yeah, like it's everything, right? But here, what's it? How far is it from left to right? How far is it from up and down? And how far is it forwards and backwards when I'm in here? Oh, well, it's quite difficult, that one, isn't it? But it's not that difficult, because actually it's infinite and there is no measurement, because I'm actually unified with my sense of being, my very center. I'm in my center. I'm in my center. Now, what if I was to open my eyes again? Actually, hang on a sec. I'm just going to do a quick countdown here. 3, 2, 1, and open my eyes. Oh, back in that space again. And it all appeared like in an instant. That was like a big bang, right? The big bang just went, I had my space of nothingness, my huge outer and inner space unified. And then I opened my eyes and I had a big bang. Oh, and suddenly everything appeared all at once. That's funny, that, isn't it? But also, that will give you something to think about with regards to creation myths. So when we look at creation myths and all those ancient myths that go back thousands of years, and how they talk about being the world instantly appeared, ding, they had their eyes closed, then they went bing, and everything appeared. Which I'm just wondering now, actually, if you're getting that right now. Maybe you are. So we're halfway through the experiments, folks. I hope you're enjoying yourselves here. I'm going to bring it back to astrology very much so in a minute, because I've got to bring the unification of astrology together here. But I'm just going to complete the experiments with you, okay? Because it's pretty groovy stuff, I hope. At least I hope you're enjoying this. So I want you to now just think about this, okay? When you look down at myself, I'm looking at myself sitting in the chair here, and I look up and I think, well, if I bring my hand up, it vanishes at a certain point, yeah? When I bring my hand up, and then I can't see it anymore. There's a line beyond which I can't see anything. I can't see my own chin. I can't actually see the top button of my shirt or my collar. It stops as this line, yeah? It's like the bottom line, yeah? Like, you know, maybe it's like a boat that I'm floating on, yeah? So I'm about to show, you know, and this is the one for the Egyptologists out there. You know, the floating of the boat across the waters with the Eye of Horus on it, you know, boat across, floating on their boat through their inner and outer space, through their space that is within and without. As above, so below is inside, as above is outside, within and without. All the esoteric meanings are within and without. Got that? Yeah, on it, you know. So I want you to now think about this. There's this floating space that I'm in. What's going on? Yeah, well, I want you to do this. I want you to pretend, or at least to first acknowledge, actually, that you have pretty much throughout your life been looking through a pair of eyes, 2 apertures here in my face. I call it my face, my apertures, 2 eyes. Oh, would you do this, please? Just do this with me now, like a pair of binoculars. Hello, hi, yes, it's all very nice here. And I just want you to, once you've got that on and you're looking through your 2 eyes, I want you to actually expand the space here between the fingers and the thumbs, like that. So that you are looking through a diver's mask, like when you dive down into you enter that underwater world, or It's actually a whole world. You go, ooh, bloop, 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 bloop. Wow, pretty amazing. But now you move it out a bit here, and you've got a diver's mask, and you're opening your hands up and up and up like this. So put your hands here. You see them here, yes, like this. And then I want you to bring them around a bit. Oh, look, there's an edge. There's a peripheral edge. Round and around and around and out. Down the boat bit there. Round the back, round the sides. Oh, there's an edge. There's an edge. Yeah, there is. Don't fall off the edge of the world. Remember what the ancients used to do? They used to draw round maps. All the maps were circular and round. And they'd be like little ships would be sailing along and then go fall off the edge. No. We're not doing that today. But we're going to think like they used to think, right? Because this is how to integrate modern psychological astrology, psyche, and Jungian alchemical astrology and psychology with ancient Hellenistic astrology. We're about to do it right now. Are you ready? So we have the edge of our vision. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, like there's this edge. Have I really been looking through two eyes, or have I in fact been looking through a single eye at the world? Is this not in fact a single frameless window? And if I bring my hands back, and this is, you must do this now, I hope you're doing this with me. I'm going to feel like, oh my God, no one followed me. No, just please be giving this a go, okay? Bring your hands back, and they vanish. Bring your hands back, and they vanish. I can't see my hands anymore. You need to be doing this. Your hands have vanished. Okay? So where have they gone? Well, I know that my hands are there. I am aware that my hands are there. It's just that I can't see them until I bring them forwards again, just around the hatched edge, that slightly sort of faded edge of the single eye, yeah? And then they appear again. It's like hands gone, hands here, gone, here. It's like, wow, hang on a minute. So I'm following this huge infinite space, yeah? And wherever I go, it goes with me because I'm in and out with it, okay? So I'm in my space and out of my space. When I point back, I'm aware. So my awareness, so I have a window of awareness all the way around. My hands are there and I'm aware of everything. When I bring them forward, my consciousness is triggered. Consciousness immediately gets interactive. It's like, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll pick up a pen, right? Colored pen, whatever, right? Things, books, stuff. My consciousness is actively interacted. But I'm got the awareness first. And folks, behind my awareness, what is behind that awareness? Is that vast creative void. The void. Oh, they cry. Nothing to do with the void of the moon, is it? It is. But we'll get there. When I launch that theory, I need an invitation, please, to someone's great podcast. Give us a shout, will you? And I'll talk you through the void of course of the moon, the real void of course moon. Yeah, that's going to be fun. So we're going to go void of creation that I can't see and consciousness that I can see. That's pretty fun, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty amazing, actually. Okay. So, but we'll talk about that another time because there's more to talk about that. I'm just introducing this to you tonight. Okay. So, you're still looking at the Aristotelian cosmological picture, I hope. Or you've stormed off in disgust. He's not talking about astrology. Hang on. Coming back to it. So, what is this vastness is within is the vastness that is without, right? And when you do the single eye, right? I mean, this is actually where you need to get up from your seat and you need to start walking around, yeah, with the single eye, because it's there all the time, right? I mean, the single eye is, it's it, right? You're in it. You've discovered it. And you can actually be like Shiva, my favorite Hindu god character. I'm going to bring this one down here. Hang on. I've got to show you this because this is kind of like the void of creation. Here isn't dancing Nataraj. You see it everywhere. It's a very, very powerful Hindu symbol of the creator. He's creating and destroying simultaneously. And he's dancing in that circle. He's dancing in the single eye, folks. There he is in his single eye. Yeah, and this is like the hatched edge, the ring of fire. Ring of fire. Oh, yes, of course, the Bible. Oh, my goodness me. And then you turn Shiva to the side and you see that actually he's in front of the single eye. He's being human because I'm in front of my space. I'm sat like that. So are you. Everyone is in front of it. Behind is the creative void, this huge space of voidness all around, and he's dancing, he's having fun. He's dancing in front of the void. Okay, pretty cool. Right, so how are we doing? Well, I hope you're enjoying this. So to do the single eye, right, this is the most amazing thing of all. When you start to, if you now walk around and let the world move through you, right? So you can walk along a corridor, down the stairs, through the woods, in the back garden, down the street, into a shop, on a bus, on a train, in a car. A car is amazing because when you do the single eye in the car, you're driving along, and are you going anywhere? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Yes, you're going somewhere in a car, but are you moving? No, I'm sat in a seat holding the steering wheel and driving, and the world is moving through me. The world flows through me. It's flowing through me all the time. You're going to love it, folks. It's such a wonderful experience, and it makes you stay super alert. So no worries there, you know. It's this beautiful feeling of seeing the world flow through you. And then now I want to turn back to the Aristotelian cosmological picture that you're seeing, and how I talked about the unmoved mover that Dante talked about is on the edge of the world, the edge of the universe, the edge. The Empyrean, the house of God and all the elect is on the edge, the outer edge. That's that ring of fire, the fiery edge, the single eye. And everything's moving through it, okay? And at my center, it's the same. At my center, remember this? In my center, I have the whole world in me. And it's moving through me, okay? Moving through me. It's just this beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. And it flows and moves through me, okay? At this point, I'm reminded to say Plato in the Timaeus talked about how the sphere was God's perfect shape, that nothing could beat the sphere, that, you know, humanity was built like a sphere. What do you think he was talking about? Well, yeah, he's talking about the single eye, right? What's Shakespeare doing with his plays, right? The Globe, I talked about that one already. You know, Aristotelian cosmology, all these things, they're talking about this being from the center and looking out. And this is about the sense of the change of perception. And now, folks, having told you that, I now have to key it into astrology. Of course I do. This is an astrological talk. You might be thinking he's completely nuts, but hold on. I talked at the beginning about how the rising sign, yeah? Well, now you have become aware of your awareness and your consciousness and the difference between the two. Think about the edge, difference between the two. You can put attentions and manifestation into the consciousness field, the sphere, knowing that there's pure awareness. Everything comes from it. Everything comes from it and flows out into it, like Shiva dancing, yeah? It flows through creation and destruction simultaneously. So flowing through and out into this sphere of being. And that is how you were born. And what is the astrology chart? The map of the moment that you were born. It's your first breath. And what did I talk about earlier? The pneuma, the spirit of all, the spirit of everything. And what do we do when we say we are born? The first breath at the time of birth. Why do we say in astrology, what's your time of birth? Because we're asking for the first breath, because that is when the pneuma wakes up or creates the life form in the earthly realm. It descends through the moon and it becomes an individual. And the rising sign is this space, the ascendant, the ascendant, the ascension, the ascending. Thoughts are rising in the space all the time. Thoughts are rising because it's my field of consciousness. Thoughts are arising all the time. Whoosh. But we have it recorded into a chart, recorded with a breath. That was the moment that I joined the sublunar sphere. That was the moment that I got involved in this place. And that was the moment it all started. So my theory is that enlightenment can be found through the rising sign. But yes, in the natal chart, it's kind of there, isn't it? It's kind of like recorded as a moment stuck into time. Yeah. But what about a transiting chart, folks? What about a transiting chart? The ascendant, the angles are always moving. Yeah. Which leads us to say, what are they moving? What are the angles recording? The angles are recording the primary motion. The primary motion, the primary movement as the eastern horizon, as this Earth turns inside the sublunar realm. Okay, the world is revolving. Your world is revolving. The Earth is turning. Underneath the sublunar realm, it's turning. And because you have feet on the ground, you're turning with it. You also turn with it. So everything in your space of awareness, everything in your field of consciousness is turning as well. So as thoughts are arising, things are coming into the field. I'm going for a walk. I'll walk down to the shops. Who do I meet? Things are coming into my field. What shall I buy? What am I thinking about? What's flowing through my thought form? All this stuff. It's all to do with that transiting ascendant and the transiting angles. The primary motion, because we are keyed into the primary motion. That's why the 4 angles of the birth chart are the primary motion. Okay. The secondary motion is the actual contents of the consciousness. The primary motion is the awareness. I think I've said enough, almost, maybe. Have I said enough? Let's try another slide. I don't even know what time it is. I just want you to imagine there that you're looking at, well, that's your space, isn't it? So you're looking out from your space. And imagine those little symbols as planets, yeah? So you've got like, you know, the 7 visible planets stretching out in front of you. And that's your consciousness space, you know? You're actually upside down, technically speaking, because when you look down like that, with that in view, you've actually got the feet, you know. But to tie this further, so this would be the moon here, Mercury, Venus, and the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Yeah, it's different symbols, but the theory is the same. Okay, and those are your feet. These are your hands. It's like I'm showing you the single eye space. Okay. This, of course, ties it in beautifully, actually, with the Thema Mundi. Yeah. So, you know, Hellenistic astrology. Here we go. You know, I mean, where do we start? You know, I just showed you the single eye space, and I showed you the order of the planets, and I said they're all coming out from our being at the center. So, what do we start with? We start with pure awareness, but we are also in a field of light. Yeah, we are in the light. We can't forget that, can we really? So that's probably why the sun and the moon, or the moon, anyway, the order of there's something about the Thema Mundi. I think you're going to find that it's this the beginning of the universe is because the beginning of the universe is here. Remember, it's here, right? It's here. It's behind you. It's not behind you, it's in you. It's the void. It's the creative void. The beginning of everyone's universe, the Big Bang. Remember the Big Bang? The Big Bang is the creation. It's the beginning of the universe. So in ancient Hellenistic times, They were saying, what's the beginning of the universe? When did the universe begin? Well, it began with me, with an individual, what you're doing to yourself right now, I hope, pointing back at your own space that you're looking out of. That's the beginning of your universe. And that is why the Earth was always at the center of the universe. There's so much more to say about this. I hope you're enjoying it. There's lots of different versions. Here's that from Macrobius. This image is from the commentary on the dream of Scipio or Scipio, around about 400 AD. He was a post-Roman writer, Macrobius. But if you have a look there, what are they doing? What are the chaps doing around the edge there? They're holding up a big space. They're holding up a single eye, aren't they? Just like that, a single eye, yeah? Which, of course, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take you back, because that was 400 AD. But if we go back to 3000 BC, oh, the temple at Dendera. There they are. What are they all doing? Holding up a single eye. They're all holding it up and going, oh, there's a space here that contains everything. They're holding up the space of the universe that is in them. It's in them, pointing out into space and pointing back. Their inner space is their outer space. And that, my dear friends, is the origins of our sacred art of astrology. You support your single eye space. You support the space you're in. You have the infinite void of creation behind you. And then you have this wonderful space of consciousness in front of you. And when you become aware of that dividing line, like the Nataraj dancing Shiva, and you become aware of that dividing line, then you can create anything within reason as to what's in your chart, of course. But you can perfect yourself, that's for certain. You can definitely perfect yourself. So there you go. All right. And I hope that I'm entertaining you. I hope I'm teaching you. I hope I'm showing you something that's worthwhile. So the last image tonight is this one. Because there is the floating eye of Horus. Look at it carefully, quite interesting. Look over to this side of the image here, and he's doing a single eye. There's that ibis-headed god, which I think is Thoth, and he's doing a single eye, isn't he? Look, he is though. He really is doing the single eye, right? Look at that. Yeah, he's doing a single eye. Yeah, look, his hands are up. There they are, elevated in front of him. Yeah, there we go. He's going, I'm looking at my space. I can feel my edge, the boundary. And then projected in front of me is my single eye, like a world, the world that I belong to. There it is, like supported, like a little kind of reflective mirror, as it were. But it's not a mirror, is it? Because we know that. So the in and out space. It's a combination of both things. And there's this eye of Horus. And then moving away from the eye of Horus, of course, are all the different deities, which of course are dynamic planetary energies. These are all different planets and maybe even asteroids, whatever you want to, it's all the different attributations of dynamic energies that became the planets. But they're all different measurements. You've got different types of height diminishing down, going down, and then it changes its shape, going further and further and further away. So it's going down, So you have this huge space of awareness here. So this might be the equivalent of a conjunction. Moving away, we have orbs of influence. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of studying to do in all this. I hope I'm the first person to show you this. I hope that if you were to start showing this to your clients and your students and your schools of astrology, and you can adopt it and do that, but do give me some attribution. That is me trying to be too egotistical. I'm humble for it all. I love what I have been doing, showing you tonight. I dearly think this is a wonderful part of a process that the world of astrology desperately needs, my dear friends, desperately needs, because it's going to put us back, front and forwards, extremely powerfully into the New Age circles. We're not just third-person chart word salad interpreters. We are now becoming at one with all that is, And tonight, I hope you got a flash of enlightenment. You're probably going to go straight back to that world of consciousness again, because that's the way it works. As I said, it's just a constant raging river, isn't it? You know, but the more you do, the better it gets. Believe you me, it does. I've had some amazing experiences. And by the way, the transit that brought all this to me, I've got the moon in Pisces. I had Neptune conjuncting my moon in Pisces, trining my Mars and Neptune in Scorpio this last 3-4 years. And it brought me all this. So it's been a wonderful experience, I've got to say. And I have really found it to be incredible. And I just hope that we can do something really productive with it. I would really like to say, please buy my book, actually. So I have a YouTube channel called Julian Venables Astrologer. Please go and subscribe to that, and I'll put videos out on that explaining all this soon. My website currently is londonastrologer.com. I have an email. You can write to me on julestheastrologer@gmail.com, or in fact, easier is better to write venables.julian@gmail.com. You can probably find me any number of other ways. You can probably just put my name, Julian Venables Astrologer, into Google. You might find me how to get in touch with me. So there we go. My book tells you so much more. This is just the beginning. I've just shown you some stuff tonight to take you to the edge, you know, to show you that amazing thing. And I really do hope that, you know, you're going to hopefully also get huge flashes of intuition from this. Huge. It's an incredible thing. And my book my book is actually a psychotherapeutic method. Okay, so I'm actually going to full details of how to use this properly and really turn it into a magical tool. Because let's face it, you know, this is the next stage of astrological readings. I really do think we need this. And if you're just an astrologer working for yourself and understanding your own chart, start to think of it in this way, and amazing things start to happen. So there we go. The planets are always moving through us. Yeah, the planets move through us. They are the words in our flow of consciousness. Yeah, so they're always there. They're always doing stuff. And we can fine tune to that, and we can really start to make something of this. So I really hope you've enjoyed my talk. Do please invite me to give more talks. I'm happily talking on Zoom. To invite me around the world. I'm ready and willing to come to do workshops anywhere that you choose. Just come and give me a call and get people over, and we'll do some fantastic stuff together. I'm at the moment preparing a big floor mat to roll out so we can walk our talk as we do the 7 spheres. I've got all sorts of goodies. I've got more books coming on the way, loads of stuff. This is the first stage of showing you something what I believe to be pretty amazing. Your rising sign is your ascending. It's you, thoughts arising and becoming the halo. The last point to make here, when next time you go and see one of those churchy places or whatever, and you see halos around people, all those images, you know what the halo is, don't you now, folks? Don't you, right? You know what your halo is, okay? And I might just say, actually, I'll give you a quote from the Gospel of Matthew, because I'm not a Christian, but anyway, I'll give you a quote from the Gospel of Matthew, which is, "If thine eye be single, then thy body be filled with light." Good evening. Good night. I hope you enjoyed my talk. Do give me a call. Find me somehow. Invite me to your workshop. I'm happy to entertain you all with some amazing astrological insights and give you a good reading as well, of course. So ask for a reading from me, please. And I hopefully will speak to you soon. This is the beginning of Pluto in Aquarius. It's not in there yet, but it'll be soon. Jupiter, Saturn in Aquarius, and Pluto in Aquarius soon. So good night, goodwill to all. Bless you all. Love you all. Take care and have fun with the space that you are in.
Thank you so much, Julian, for those very bold, thought-provoking insights. I don't know if there are any questions. I don't see any questions, but I'm sure everybody has found this very stimulating, and you've shared it with great enthusiasm. So thank you. And our next UK Star Club webinar will be on the 14th of February. We're going to have Victor Oliver, and his topic is going to be Oscar and Bosie, the draconics of a love that dare to speak its name. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again, Julian, and look out for Julian's book, The Divine Order, available soon on Amazon. All right. Okay, and with that, goodbye everyone, and see you next time. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.